right? Now, how do we cultivate self-awareness? Right. Are you with me? Just give me a thumbs up, love, anything, so that I can see that you're with me. We are at the home stretch now, that we can have the Q&A. All right. So how do we then cultivate self-awareness? Right. So again, we have introspection. So like I said, it doesn't mean that introspecting is bad, but most of us are doing it the wrong way. So the key thing is you want to reflect, you want to examine your thoughts, your feelings to gain insights, not necessarily just to reflect. What are you reflecting for? You want to turn that introspection, whatever you find out, to insight, right? Another thing you want to know is, you need to have a flexible mindset. And when I mean flexible mindset, you need to understand that there's not one truth. I think the only one truth that you can say for sure is that, okay, there's only one God. That is a truth that nobody can contest, right? Even though there'll still be people that will contest it, but to you, you know that that's one truth that nobody can contest, right? But you need to know that there are several truths, and most times when we're introspecting, one of our objectives is, okay, maybe something happened, and okay, maybe you had an argument with your friend, and you're trying to reflect on what happened, the situation. Most times when we are going into that phase of reflection, we are thinking we just want to know the exact cause, that there's just one cause, and that's not necessarily the case. It might be a case of you were, you didn't know that that was an expensive joke, and a second cause might be your friend, who maybe naturally would have taken that joke and not said anything or gotten offended, but because she was particularly stressed on that day, she took it in the negative, and she blew up, and she didn't take it funny, and she didn't find it funny, right? So that is just not one truth. But if you're just introspecting based on what you think, or you might just be like, oh, that was just, that was an extreme joke, blah 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 blah, and you keep ruminating on it, and you don't get insights from it. Meanwhile, trying to get, if you get feedback from your friend, it might just be, oh, she'll be like, oh, I'm sorry, I know, yes, the joke might have been, a bit, but because I was upset, or I had a stressful day, so and so happened, right? So you need to know that when you're introspecting, you need to know that there might be more than one truth. So in my last newsletter, when I was introspecting on the verse I read in the Quran, I knew when I was introspecting was, I know that at various points in my life, I might go back to that verse and it means something entirely different to me. So I know that it's not just one truth. Three people can read something and they interpret it in three different ways, right? Or even more than three different ways. So you need to know that there is most likely more than one truth. So when you have this in mind, especially when you're dealing with like negative experiences in your life, you want to know that it might not be just one truth, so that you don't beat yourself up. Because some of us, like I said, we already have some preconceived beliefs about something, so we just think, so maybe especially when we are thinking about our past or things that have happened, we tend to say, okay, this is just the reason, and you beat yourself up about, and that's not necessary. So you have to have that flexible mindset to say, you know what, there might be various reasons why so and so happened, right? So that is, so in my, I'll give another example. So in my reflection podcast, thinking about my 20s, right? There was a time I was like, oh, I didn't go on to practice pharmacy, and I realized that, you know what, before it was just one thing for me, but I realized, okay, there might be actually different reasons why I didn't go on. So one might be because, I actually did not enjoy. It was only one part of pharmacy that I enjoyed. Another thing might be, another reason could have been because I did not sit down to actually do my research more, to say, okay, if I did not, since I didn't like, it was just one part of pharmacy that I liked, were there other things that I could have done or read up on or researched on and found interesting? So there's just not one answer. So there can be varying sides, and that kind of gives you, should I say, grace. You make things, especially when you're dealing with negative situations, it gives you grace, basically, to not beat yourself up about various things, right? Then you want to, when you're introspecting, you want to employ cognitive behavioral therapy, right? And you can do it by yourself. So it's just basically, there are different methods, but the one I'm going to touch on here is, trying to, if you have some negative assumptions about yourself, and trying to say, okay, rephrase it into a positive and say, you know what, this thing that I'm thinking, it might not necessarily be the end and be all of it, right? What is another way to look at it, right? And you try to kind of reframe that that behavior or that action or that thought that is going through your mind, right? So that is for introspection. So you know that, once you are introspecting, you are reflecting, it doesn't have to be just one reason or one scenario. And when you're introspecting, don't just introspect for the sake of introspecting, because you find out that when you're just reflecting about something, particularly a negative experience, you just keep beating yourself up about it. And if you don't turn it into insights, or if your goal is not turning into insights, then you lose, the juice in it. And the same thing goes for like a positive experience. If you're just, thinking, oh, like this, that, you might not see, if you're not thinking about saying, okay, out of this positive experience, what insights can I get out of it? You might miss an opportunity to maybe do better, or to transfer that same experience to something else, right? So we need to be careful on how we introspect. So journaling, again, you need to journal to get insights. And the research shows that you should not necessarily journal everything, right? So one of my friends asked me, like, oh, what do you journal about? And I was like, I'm not someone that journal. I think the last time that I journaled consistently was like in secondary school. Then I would write everything, blah, blah, blah. But I do have notes. I do. So one thing that I do, if something hits me, or if I get an insight about something, or if there was this particular situation that occurred to me, and I'm trying to just decipher the situation, I write about it, right? So research actually shows that that's a good way to journal. So you journal about specific situations. So it can be bad, it can be good, right? But you don't necessarily have to journal. So it even says that journaling every day kind of loses the essence, right? So if you're the type of person that you've been hearing journaling, journal to know yourself, this and that, at least you can breathe easy now to say, okay, I don't have to journal all the time, right? So you want to journal specific or significant occurrences in your life, or significant situations, and hopefully get insights. So you want to actually, at that moment in time, get insights from it. Then you also want to journal from another person's perspective, not only your perspective. Because have you noticed a situation where maybe you wrote some things down, you journaled something maybe years back, and you just realized that when you go back to it, you're like, okay, so what was this about, right? And that's because you didn't bring out the juice from that particular journaling session, right? So you need to journal with intention, not just writing everything that happened to you and all that. Some of them you don't really need it. You don't need to be seeing the bad thing that happened to you 10 years ago every time you go through that journal, not necessarily. But if it was something big enough to cause like a shift, or like a aha moment, or like a character shift or something, then you want to journal those kind of things, right? So those are the ones that would help you towards self-awareness, not necessarily journaling, oh, I went to Apapa today, I saw Omodara, I saw Salma. It doesn't really, so okay, out of that experience, what now happened, right? But if you journal and say, oh, I saw Omodara, and I complimented her, and you realize that, oh, that's something that I've been working on in recent times, that's something I've been trying to be conscious about. I really want to be able to, I noticed that maybe I don't give compliments enough, and I want to. So there you get an insight and say, okay, yes, I'm actually improving in that space. Not, oh, I saw this, I saw that, I saw that. That doesn't really give you anything to work with, right? So have a growth mindset. Again, keep learning. You must have that mindset that you do not know it all. You must know that it's okay to make mistakes, but the idea is, what can you learn from it? See things, setbacks as challenges, right? And that way you're able to cultivate awareness about yourself, to say, okay, I've been able to develop maybe resilience through this experience, So you want to have a growth mindset. Don't be one that has a fixed mindset and just thinks that, oh, this is everything about me. I cannot change, this is how I approach this, and there's nothing I can do about it. Or I'm the type of person that gets angry easily, and that's it. No, it doesn't have to be that way, right? There are ways that you can be open to learn, right? You also want to practice pausing. So when I mean pausing, this is in particular, like if something happens, right? Sometimes to not fall into that whole idea of you're reflecting and ruminating on something. If something happens, sometimes you just want to pause and totally just, hang it somewhere. It's like putting up your heart and putting it somewhere and say, you know what, I'll come back to this thing. I'll come back and tackle this thing, right? So what that gives you, it gives you space to not jump into conclusions about something that happened, or maybe a particular behavior about yourself or anything. You just pause it. So maybe something happened, and to pause, what you decide to do is, you decide to go and visit a friend. So being in that situation would get your mind off, what happened. So you're just pausing, to just have a breather. Then later you come back to it. That way you can be more objective. You remember, most times we take actions, or we make decisions out of our emotions, what we feel. So if you are quick to say, okay, this is what happened, and you interpret it immediately, you might lose that opportunity to actually see, the true picture and all that. But if you pause, if you practice pausing a lot, then it gives you, when you come back, you are more, you have a more clear mindset. You can now think about it objectively and say, okay, this and this could have been the cause, blah blah blah, and everything. So that's the way to cultivate self-awareness, right? Practice stopping your thoughts. So like I said, there are some of us by default, maybe due to our experiences and all that, we tend to think about the negative more than the positive, right? So when you stop your thoughts, so there might be some beliefs about yourself that are not necessarily true, or you're trying to change, right? So you might think to yourself, maybe you made a mistake and you're like, oh, every time, Seki, you're fond of this thing, you always do this, you can't do any right, or you're always you always make mistakes. You can stop yourself and be like, me, I actually tell myself, stop it, Seki. I tell myself, and it stops, it breaks that process of but then you're now aware to say, okay, these are some thoughts that I have on a regular basis. What can I do, to kind of turn things around, right? What can I do to change this mindset, right? So you want to practice stopping your thoughts. So I scold myself sometimes. I'm like, stop it, right? When I see that I'm I'm going down that rabbit hole of maybe blaming myself or something, you want to stop yourself. So that's the way to catch yourself. So you might be thinking of something, and it might not even be something negative, it might be something positive, and you stop your thoughts so that you are mindful of what you're thinking of at that moment, right? So it doesn't necessarily have to be something negative, it can be something positive. So maybe you're feeling very joyous, and you pause, you just stop your thought, and you're like, what about, why am I feeling so joyous? What about this situation is making me joyous? So that way you're able to trace it back and say, oh, it's the fact that this person said a nice word to me, right? So you now realize that, oh, something that gives me joy, or something I really like is somebody telling me, giving me nice words and everything. So that way you can even train other people. So maybe in your relationship, again, back to your will, you can say, you know what, I'm a person that maybe I like people telling me nice words, or I'm a person that I like receiving gifts and everything. So pausing, stopping your thoughts, would help you get some insights like that. So it's not just, oh, I'm happy, and the next minute you don't even know how to recreate that happiness. There are sometimes that you just feel so content, so sated, so at peace. Sometimes you want to stop yourself and say, what about this situation is making me feel very content? It might be because you're all alone, cozied up with your book and everything. So that way, when you get that insight, you can recreate that kind of situation again for yourself, right? So that is about practicing stopping your thoughts. Um, do a life story exercise. So I think I came across this when I went for my master's, right? So there was this program that I went for, and they basically said that you should do a life story exercise. And I think I also came across it in a book. I think it was maybe What Color Is Your Parachute? I'm not sure. So basically, it's dividing your life into different buckets, right? So maybe, and it's not just everything about your life, significant moments in your life, right? So for me, I think then it was okay when I entered university, when I had my child, doing significant, putting significant moments in your life. They're now trying to see, okay, when did I have, like they call them valley moments? So moments where you were not really, maybe you were not the happiest, you were not feeling like your best selves, then you have high moments. So that way it gives you insights into, okay, what went on in that season of your life, right? That you can, take forward, or what can you be mindful of going forward in your life and take that out, right? So it's very nice to do a life story exercise. Again, it's not everything about your life, but significant moments in your life that you can remember and say, okay, something happened, something really good happened, and or something really bad happened during this time in my life, and this is how I felt, and this is what I can get from it, and moving forward, this is what I want to do about that situation. Really helps as well to cultivate self-awareness. Practice mindfulness. So mindfulness doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be in the yoga pose and you're, doing like this, or practicing or singing any mantra, right? There are different ways to practice mindfulness. Mindfulness, in short, is just, being aware of what you're thinking without any judgment, nothing. You just know that, okay, I just had a bad thought, and that is it. I'm not judging myself to say, okay, why or whatever. You're just in the moment. You are practicing, you are mindful of, what thoughts you're feeling, what action you just carried out. So maybe I scolded my child. I'm mindful that that is what because it's possible for me to scold my child and not even know that, okay, this thing that I did was wrong or something, but I know that, okay, I just scolded my child, then I will deal with it later. So practicing mindfulness helps you cultivate self-awareness, because then again, you know that, okay, this thought just passed through my mind, this is what I just did, this is what I just felt, right? So it's very a very useful tool to cultivate awareness. And it can just be, you're taking a walk. That might be a way for you to practice mindfulness. So you're aware of everything that you're feeling in your body. You're aware of the thoughts that are running through you. You're aware of, your emotions, how you're feeling at that moment. So that is mindfulness. It's not a long thing. It's just being aware that, okay, this is what is happening right now. It's not a matter of, oh, you're looking into your past or you're worrying about the future. It is the present, what is going on in the present. So that would help you cultivate self-awareness, because then again, now you know that, okay, oh, okay, you decide that, I want to work on my relationship, and you've already said, you've identified that, okay, you notice that when you are with maybe your husband or your spouse or your friend, you are usually distracted. You are typing on the phone, and you are talking to the person, so the person doesn't feel appreciated or heard and or seen. So in practicing mindfulness, you are in a situation where you're in that scenario, you're talking to your friend, then you realize that you were just about to pick your phone. That is mindfulness, because you are mindful. You were able to catch that, okay, I just actually reached out to pick up my phone to do this habit that I said that I wanted to stop, right? So that will help you cultivate self-awareness and say, okay, what else can I do? So maybe I should actually take my phone out, or I should not even see my phone when I'm so there was a time that I was trying to be more productive and all that, and I noticed that instinctively I will reach out for my phone. Once I just feel I encounter maybe something I don't want to do, maybe I don't want to send an email, the next thing is I will pick up my phone. So what I did for that period was, you know what, I will leave my phone in my room. Then I went somewhere else to work, so that when I want to reach out for my phone, I realized that, okay, I almost did this, but luckily my phone is somewhere else. So that is mindfulness. So practicing all those things will make you cultivate self-awareness to say, okay, am I um reaching where, am I making progress in where what I want to do, or what's that thing I want to change and all that. So that would help you. And be a solution miner. So having self-awareness is not just about being self-aware. You want to use it to improve yourself, right? You want to use that awareness to improve yourself, do better, let go of some things, right? So you want to be a solution miner. So you want to bridge the gap between where you are going and where you are presently. So you want to be someone that thinks about, okay, what's the solution? What do I need? So that way you're able to say, okay, this is the fix I'm in now. This is my current solution situation, and this is where I'm going. So I'm aware that this is what I need to do, right? So you start to think, okay, what can I do to get me where I'm going to, right? So be a solution miner. Don't be someone that is stuck in why, or you're just thinking about the past. So being solution oriented helps you cultivate self-awareness, because then you now know, okay, these are my roadblocks, these are, things that I can do to, maneuver it and all that. So be a solution miner. Seek feedback. This is so important, right? It's extremely important. You need to seek feedback. Again, no man is an island. Some people see you more clearly than you see yourself, than you've seen yourself in maybe your 30 plus years of life or your 20 plus years of life, right? Some people see you more clearly. Somebody is unmuted. Can you kindly mute yourself? I'm kind of hearing them. So you want to make sure that you are someone that seeks feedback, but there's a caveat, right? You need to make sure that you seek feedback from someone that is trusted, someone that you know that doesn't love you blindly, someone that you know that doesn't dislike you, or even if the person dislikes you, the person is able to separate their dislike of you from, the feedback that they want to give you. So you need to be careful about who you get the feedback from, right? You also want to be careful of how you process the feedback. So like I said, the feedback, because they give you feedback doesn't mean that it's the separate yourself, your person from that feedback, right? Some people deliver feedback so toxically, right, that sometimes it's very hard to, you just like is it me, that this person is talking about like this. You understand? So you need to seek feedback from the right person. Seek feedback from someone that will lovingly critique you, not somebody that will just keep telling you, oh, no, you're perfect and everything, because they don't want to hurt you. You also don't want to seek feedback from someone that, is even out to hurt you or just put you down, right? So you need to seek feedback from the right person. You also need to do it in the right manner, right? So when you receive feedback, when you're seeking feedback, don't be defensive, right? Just accept. Thank you very much. And a good way to maneuver this is to take power into your hands. Actually, be the one, be proactive about asking for feedback. So most times where I usually hurts more or blindsided when someone just comes to tell you that, well, Sama, this thing, this is that. I don't like, you are aggressive, you are a poor performer, blah, blah, blah. That shakes you, it knocks you out. But if you are the one that actively seeks feedback, you've kind of put like a shield, it's as if, okay, I'm the one that came to ask you. So you have kind of prepared yourself for, whatever goes that they want to give you. So you are just, you're kind of prepared. So it's better to seek feedback. And I can tell you for sure that this is a very beautiful exercise. So I think about 2 or 3 months ago, I just went around, I asked about 2 or 3 of my friends, to give me feedback. And another thing you need to know is when you're asking for feedback, don't just ask for generic feedback, because the question is you might end up getting feedback on something that you don't even expect, right? So you want to make sure that you're asking specific questions. So maybe you're working on a project. You want to ask, please, what are your thoughts on maybe this piece of content that I created? Don't just say, what are your thoughts on this project? You might go and find out, they might give you feedback on something that you don't expect, right? So you want to be very mindful of how you seek feedback, right? So I asked, I'm trying to be a better person, what do you think about how our friendship, how do you think I show up, and it gave me feedback on it. And I'm like, thank you. It hurts. Some of them hurts me because, but because I was the one that asked, I was already in a position, I had power. I wasn't the one. It's not like they just came to, pour sand in my gari. No, I asked for that feedback, right? So you want to be specific. If you're asking feedback, oh, what do you think? What do you think? Why do you think I'm in this situation where I never have money saved up? Somebody else might not tell you that, see, you don't have control. Anytime you see something, is buy, click and buy, right? And you might not even know that about yourself, or you cannot resist food. Everything you want to do is use all your money to buy food, right? Someone can tell you, but if you just give feedback, some of them will go and tell you history that you don't want to hear. Do you understand? So you need to be specific in your ask, right? Then also you need to want to really hear the feedback, take the feedback. So it's one thing to ask for feedback. Some people are asking feedback and they've already put a shield on their ear. no matter what you say, they are just taking the feedback to, to fulfill all righteousness. But no matter what you say, it's not getting in. So you really want to make sure that you're asking the feedback to actually hear it and take action upon it, right? So you can seek a good way to, like I said, people don't want to hurt you. So if you're like in a professional setting, some of us might be lucky enough to do maybe 360-degree feedbacks where people give you anonymous feedback about yourself. The good thing about it is because people can trace that feedback to the people that give the feedback, they are more likely to give you the true picture, right? But even if you ask again, if you ask from someone that like I said, be specific in your ask, make sure that the person, you trust the person enough to give you objective feedback. It's not someone that hates you or someone that is, loved blindsided, that they will never tell you the truth, right? So those are those are things that you want to then ask the right questions. Then in putting your feedback to work, you want to receive the feedback with grace. Do not be defensive, because people are looking out for your reaction. If they give you a feedback and the first thing is, no, I don't agree, or you just show that you're upset or something, chances are next time they will not want to give you that feedback. So you want to be careful about your reactions. So you want to receive the feedback with as much control and grace as possible. Of course, you cannot control the way people give feedback, and that's why self-awareness is very key, because we all need to do better as well in the way we deliver things, right? But again, you cannot control someone else's behavior. So you do what is within your control, and that's controlling your own reaction, right? Then you want to reflect on the feedback that was given. There's some feedback that this feedback is not for me. It's not true. But there are some, but you want to have that moment where you pause. People that are very self-aware, they pause and really think about this thing and say, they don't just, disregard it upfront or accept it, at face value. You want to pause and, take time to reflect on it and say, okay, what about this feedback? Do I really believe this feedback? Is it applicable to me? What can I do better? Blah, 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 and all that. So you pause to reflect and take the feedback. Then you respond to the feedback. It's not just enough to, take feedback. It's good to respond to it. So I remember the time where at work, we had a feedback survey and somebody said, somebody chose, oh, I can't remember what exactly was it. Did you get, okay, what was your experience with the course? Did you get what you wanted out of it? And the person said no. So I reached out to the person, and the person was like, oh, you just wanted to know that, you wanted to see that when they give feedbacks like this, are we actually doing anything about it? Or is it just, you take it and nothing happens after that, right? So you respond to feedback. It's very, very essential, right? So you just don't want to take the feedback, because if you're someone that people give feedback and you don't do anything about it, then they will just be like, there's no point. She doesn't really do, she doesn't do anything about it anyway. So why waste my, I'm not going to sweat about it. I'm not going to give you feedback. So you need to respond to feedback. And one thing you want to also notice, sometimes there are some feedback, again, that you cannot do anything about, right? So there are two options. It's either you change or you accept and not do anything. So it's very possible that, there are some times that you've tried, but nothing can be done. But what you can now do is, tell the person and say, what, I've tried to work on this thing, but I can't seem to, maybe I just can't seem to improve or whatever. But this is something alternate that I can do to kind of, work around this feedback that you're giving me, right? So you want to always respond to feedback, right? Then one tip I'll also tell you is, before you seek feedback, if you're someone that you are very sensitive to criticism, something else you want to do is you really want to cultivate the habit of, being your own hype person sometimes, right? So there's sometimes that, I just tell myself, look at God's creation, Alhamdulillah, but I'm not saying it so that in case for days that I don't feel so good about myself, I know that yes, I know that I'm okay, I was created beautifully, right? Because there are some days like that will happen. So you want to make sure that you affirm yourself from time to time. Don't necessarily wait till when somebody gives you feedback, because at that point your brain is in fight or flight. It will just reject it. So it's not after somebody tells you that maybe you are not as brilliant as you think you are, then you now start telling yourself, oh, you're brilliant. Your brain will reject it. So what you want to do is you want to give yourself those pep talks even before, like on a regular basis, to kind of, and of course, tell yourself the truth, not the one that you'll be giving yourself false self-esteem, right? If something is wrong, it's wrong, right? But you should have that habit of, just, reaffirming yourself from time to time. All right. Yeah, so what next? So 3 things I have for you before we head out is, I want you to look at the life wheel and choose 1 to 3 areas of your life that you feel need a bit more attention, right? I want you to think about your barriers to self-awareness in those areas. And I also want you to have a plan of action to boost your awareness in those areas. So you want to look at those 7 pillars, right? So is it a spiritual thing that is blocking you from developing in this aspect? So if you work on your spirituality or in your relationship with Allah, will it help? Is it a value? Maybe you don't have any value that speaks to that area. Is it your aspirations? Maybe you have no aspirations for, maybe your financial life or your career or your relationship. Because yes, you do need to have, aspirations for all this. There's even in your parenting, right? You need to say, okay, what are my aspirations? Who do I want to, what do I want to see in my parenting, right? How do I want to parent my children? Or is it your environment? Is that what's affecting you in that particular area, right? Is it your the way you people see you, right? Or is it what's the last thing? Is it your personality, the way you have some certain patterns that you are following that you need to break? Or is it the way you react in certain situations that are really holding you back in those areas? So I want you to think about these 3 things, and I will follow up and ask if you are doing anything about it. Yeah. Then yeah, so I have a last quote that says that in our personal lives, if we do not develop our own self-awareness and become responsible for first creation, we empower other people and circumstances to shape our lives by default. Again, we're about living a life of intention. We don't live on autopilot, right? We try to be on the driver's seat as much as possible, even though we know that there's a big guy up there that still controls everything. But again, you make an effort, right? And allow put this baraka in it. So you want to live your life by design, basically, and self-awareness would help you do that. To live a life that you have the best of this life and the hereafter. Righty, so I am all done. Thank you for joining me today, and I'm here to take any questions that you have. Yeah, okay, someone has a question. Shakira.
Assalamu alaikum, Sakina. Thank you so much for the session. Sorry, I was a bit distracted during the session. So I think I have thoughts and then comments. It was very insightful when you spoke about mindfulness, right? Because it's a theme for me this year, and I just kind of, so I'm a process person, right? By profession, by design, if you will, right? And I feel like sometimes I'm just moving on autopilot. Like I know when I wake up, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this. And that has transcended into other aspects of my life. So one, my marriage, yeah, I think largely that, right? Like it almost just feels like I'm doing stuff without actually thinking about what I'm doing. And the other person is wondering what's the intention around it. And you're like, you've even just done it. You don't even like you've done it and moved on to the next thing, right? And it just seems like life is moving on so fast. It's even as bad as how it is where you're supposed to say certain as cars, maybe when you're done with ablution or when you're stepping out of the bathroom. But because you're just wanting to move on to the next thing, you don't even remember to say the car. It's as bad as now when I want to pray, I'll first pause and say, okay, have I said the car after ablution? Like is that like I just feel like I'm my life is on autopilot. I'm not doing things mindfully, right? I think that's one way I'm trying to walk back to say, okay, so the point when you said around pausing, or even if you feel a certain way, just pause and ask yourself, why do I feel this certain way? Because sometimes you feel like you know yourself, and
Yeah.
maybe, but you probably don't, right?
Mm-hmm,
Like you
mm-hmm.
probably don't. So thank you. I think my question would
Welcome.
be, hmm, as we juggle, and I know this is not the question, but maybe it
Mm-hmm,
is, as we juggle different aspects of our lives, we're
mm-hmm.
moms, we're human beings, we're Muslims, we're workers and stuff. How do we how do we take our time to be mindful? Right? Like it feels like life is just throwing a lot of things at you and you just have to keep going,
Yeah.
you can't slack, that kind of thing. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think that's my question. But thank you for the session.
You're welcome. Thank you for your contribution and for the question. So I think with everything, right, we need to prioritize what is important. So mindfulness doesn't have to be, you don't have to necessarily carve out the whole maybe 30 minutes for you to be mindful, right? It's as simple as just catching yourself, and just saying, you know what, every day I want to be able to catch myself and say, okay, what am I feeling in this moment, right? So it might be on, you might have to carve out time to say, okay, for me, I take walks a lot. That might be a way for you to practice mindfulness, to say, okay, you know what, on my walk, this is what I'm thinking right now. These are the thoughts that are currently coming to my head, right? So you have to carve out time for everything, right? There's nobody that, if you don't carve out time for something, something else will take that time. So you need to deliberately say that, you know what, I want to be more mindful. So it's like saying, like how you do maybe your ablution and you're just trying to jump onto the next thing. Even just noticing that you did not do what, like, this is something I wanted to do and you notice that you did not do it, is being mindful, because you could have as well not noticed that you didn't even do your askar or whatever you wanted to do at that time. So it's just being mindful, and when you are now mindful, then you now say, okay, I want to take action on that. But you just have to, it's just something that has to be like at the back of your mind, and you try to work on every single day. So I cannot tell you that, you have to carve out 1 hour of your time and sit down in one position and do this. No, not necessarily, but it's just being that consciousness and saying, you know what, I want to stay in the present more than in, because most times when we are rushing, we are thinking it's because we are in the future. We are thinking of, oh, what I want to do next, what I want to do next. But no, you want to make sure that you are staying in that present, and you are focused on that present. That's the thing. So maybe just telling yourself that, you want to live more in the present than worrying about what you need to do next, would help. And if there's any other person that wants to add to this, please feel free to share as well. But I hope that helps, Shakira. Thank you for that.
Yes, yes it does. Exactly like that.
Anyway, I can back around. Any other contributions? Okay, Almodar. Okay, this one.
I
You
just
can
wanted
unmute
to add.
yourself. Okay.
To, yeah, I just wanted to add to. Sorry, I'm trying to. Yeah, so I'm just trying. I just wanted to add to what you said about the mindfulness thing. I mean, because mindfulness, seems like the easiest thing to do, but it's actually, well, I don't want to, discourage you and say it's difficult. I would just say it requires a lot of practice, right? Because it's something a lot of people struggle with because of very obvious reasons. The fast-paced world we live in and blah, blah, blah. There's so many things that contribute to, us being less mindful. And the truth is, with the way the world is, it takes a lot of effort to actually reel in mindfulness. So I just wanted to share two things that have helped me, three actually. So I had a mentor once who, just used to make me sit in a position for, I think it's about 5 minutes to 10 minutes in a day. So like literally after my solar, just sit down. Put my feet on the floor, put my back against the wall, make sure I'm comfortable, and literally just sit there. So, I would start from 2 minutes, build to 5 minutes to 10 minutes. And the idea was to try to not jump from one thought to another. So, for example, if a thought comes, I'll think of it and say, okay, it's just a thought, let it go away, right? And expand the gap between both of those thoughts, right? So the idea was to try to make me a lot more mindful, because I realized I was doing things so mindlessly and I was concerned. In fact, it was so bad that I actually went to the office one day and didn't brush my teeth. And then I had to run. I completely forgot. And then I had to run to a pharmacy and quickly get a toothbrush and, brush my teeth at work. And then that's I was like, nope, this is enough. So it was a sitting exercise. And inshallah, I still have the guide for it. So inshallah, I'll send it to Seki and she can send it to you. Two other things that I've found extremely helpful is taking a mindfulness course. Sorry, I'm big on courses, so I will direct you to a course. So, and there are a lot of webinars that this same person has done that you find on YouTube. His name is Wadud Hassan. It's from Productive Muslim. They have this whole, thing on mindfulness. It's an amazing, amazing thing. They're like all sorts of techniques there to get you to be more mindful. And the third thing is also a course, but you also find snippets of it on Instagram and YouTube as well from Iqbal Nassim. He has this fabulous course on Salah and, trying to get you to be mindful in Salah. What I then found out is that, subhanallah, that in the end, Allah is so merciful, because you see that Salah is actually our trick. It's our key to mindfulness. If you can focus in Salah, trust me, there's nothing else you won't be able to focus on. So, the way people say, oh, I really want to have, what's it called now? What's the term? For mindfulness in Salah, there's a term for it. Someone should help me out. Cool, exactly, khushu. So you see, exactly. So when people talk about khushu, right? The truth is, when you can nail it, like you can nail it and you don't think about anything else, or you try to reduce the sheer amount of things that you think about, then you don't need to even, there are a ton of meditation techniques that you don't even need, because Salah is our meditation and it is our key to mindfulness. But then it also takes a lot of work. So you can also check out Iqbal Nassim's course. It's about mindfulness in Salah. I can't remember what it's called. It's about mindfulness in Salah. But if you Google him or check him on YouTube or Instagram, he has amazing snippets. He has a newsletter, blah, blah, blah. You can check it out. And I think the last thing, really, sorry, I lied. I think I said 3, I meant 4. So the last thing, it really is just it's just the pause that Seki has mentioned. And I've also found the pause so helpful. Subhanallah, just being able to pause before you do any and everything. Just that 1 second. Sometimes it's just a second. Sometimes it's 2 minutes. It's 3 minutes. Just to remind yourself that you're in the present and you're not somewhere else. But in the end, I feel like, everything just kind of ties back to our Salah, because it's such an empowering, spiritually enhancing and focusing element of our daily lives, that if we're able to put in the work and even get 5% or 20% of it right in terms of focus, then alhamdulillah, everything else will fall in place. So I hope you find that helpful, and I pray that Allah eases your affairs and all of our affairs. Ameen, ya Allah.
Ameen. Jazakumullah khairan. That's very, very insightful. Very insightful. I think another tip that I have is, I don't know if you have or someone said your voice is very Shukra said that she's a mother and a fine voice. I agree. Yeah. So for me, I have the mindfulness app on my watch, right? So I use it pretty regularly, pretty consistently, and I think it helps me as well. So you just have like a minute to just think about something. So to give you a prompt, and you just stay in the present and think about it. So yeah, I think that also helps. So if you have a mindfulness app like that, also works. You can try it out. But again, it's just being in the present. A lot of us, we are worrying so much about what's coming next, the future and the past. So may Allah ease our affairs and make it easy. All right. Yeah, the mindfulness app is amazing. All right. Any more questions? Any more comments or feedback? So you can call it a day. So in the spirit of seeking feedback, after the call, I'm also going to ask for feedback on this session. Please be honest. Feel free to be honest. It's just going to help me grow and be better. So please expect my feedback in my feedback form in your inbox, and please indulge me to give feedback. All right. Just that. That's freaking existing for me. All right, I'll take it, because I asked for the feedback. I'm kind of, giving myself the shield. So thank you so much, Jazakumullah Karen. If you want to say anything that you have learned in this session, you can drop it in the chat box, and it will be lovely to read. Alrighty. Yeah. Okay, I'm just going through the chat box. Thank you so much, Shukra. Thank you, Amina, Hikma. KU, is it Kubra? What is KU for? I can't really tell. Yeah, but thank you for joining, Shakira, Salma. Me, and you too. And before I go, Sis Omadara has a discussion session coming up by 5 p.m. Today, inshallah. It's about seeking knowledge, Islamic knowledge. So it's just a discussion to kind of, find out some of the barriers that we have to seeking knowledge. Oh, Khadija, thank you so much for joining. So about barriers to seeking knowledge and, how we can move forward, how we can get better, because I mean, knowledge is incumbent upon us as Muslims, so it's something we need to take seriously. So I'll totally encourage, in case you do not know, please let's join that session, and I'm sure it's going to be worth our while, the Idnila. So thank you, Jazakumullah Khairan, and you, and thank you so much for joining. I had a good time here, and I hope you did gain something as well. All right, sisters. Assalamu alaikum. Again, expect my email. Inshallah. All right. Um, sis, Amadi, do you want to drop the link for the session if you want to, if you have it handy?
Okay, sure.
Or you can
Okay,
just, yeah.
let me quickly get that, inshallah. May Allah bless you.
Oh, and I forgot. I keep forgetting. After the gathering, we are supposed to make dua, right? So it's something that I'm trying to be mindful about. So let me just say my dua. Well, Sister puts the link in the chat box. All right. So subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. All right. So she has dropped the link. So please join by 5 p.m. It's a discussion, so it's not that you're going to sit down again and then it's just a discussion to just learn how we can move and become better knowledge seekers as Muslims. All right. So I hope to see you guys there, inshallah. All right. Assalamu alaikum, sisters.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bye. Thank you so much. May Allah bless you.